Hey, welcome back. We're looking at season four, The Boys, looking at what went wrong, what went right as we prepare for season five. Let's go.
The Boys is oddly toothless. Over the course of 4 seasons, not a single member of the Boys has died.
Oh, that's so true. Over four seasons, no one's died. I guess that's why they're having season five will have more deaths because it's the conclusion, right? So you gotta have more action there.
Which isn't a problem in itself. However, it has created a feeling of invulnerability surrounding the group, undermining the life or death situations that they are constantly finding themselves in. With most of the boys having no powers to speak of, being about as threatening as a pinata in the eyes of most soups, the audience should feel suspense seeing them going against these much stronger opponents. The early seasons did a great job of highlighting how the boys needed to be constantly on their toes, knowing they had to outsmart a soup in order to win, with one wrong move meaning instant death. None of the boys died in the first few seasons, but every time they came face to face with a soup, the audience held their breath, as the stakes felt real for the characters. Just being in the same room as a soup used to have the audience on edge. In season 4, the soups barely feel like threats to the boys. Throughout the season, they find themselves pretty frequently in the vicinity of an unfriendly soup, and the stakes almost never feel real. On the mission where Huey is staking out the meeting between Newman and Homelander, he should be caught almost instantly. Helplessly stuck in the vent, Homelander's super hearing, super smell, and X-ray vision
Oh
should
yeah,
be able to locate Huey the
yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, that one I thought you was dead for sure.
second he steps into that room. Instead, it takes a drop of sweat to get Homelander's attention, and even then, he is blind lasering instead of just using his X-ray sight to see where
Yeah, that's a
Huey
good
is.
point.
Is the vent made of zinc or something?
What can't I see through?
Zinc, Homelander.
Correct.
It feels like they nerfed Homelander's abilities to allow the boys to go on their missions and not get instantly murdered. It just feels sloppy and makes the boys feel like they're absolutely covered in plot armor. Also, it doesn't really help that Homelander knows exactly where the boys work and will be at during any given day.
Fucking, I know where they live!
Literally,
But I think Homelander just didn't take them that serious all of season four, season three, four, five. I think he never really took them serious or as serious as he should. Because they had no powers to really affect him, right? And then Starlight isn't that powerful, so he just never saw them as a A-level threat.
he can go over to their offices whenever he wants and just kill them all. But he doesn't.
Why? Because.
This also undercuts moments like Huey escaping from Homelander, because it's like, oh no, he got away. Wait a minute, I know exactly where he works and where he lives and can just go there to kill him. If Homelander actually wanted to kill him, he could just go to the office and find Huey there. I also feel like since season 5 is going to be the final season, the show pulled its punches a little, not willing to kill off any of the boys before the final season. When Kimiko gets infected by the soup virus, you never really feel like she could actually die. When it comes to the boys, I feel absolutely no tension.
I don't think that's fair. Kimiko can't really die, right?
When they are in danger, which in my opinion is a major weakness of the season. Now when it comes to the aquatic life on this show, that's a completely different story. After the dolphin, the whale, poor Timothy, and Ambrosius, the second I see a sea creature, I instantly get scared for their life, knowing for a fact that they will die in an absolutely horrific way. The only way I'm getting nervous for the boys is if they roll up in matching lobster costumes.
He's just seeing him day after day, one thing led to another, and
So what happens when he finds out you murdered his family?
This is probably the most commonly maligned plotline of the season. I think that is pretty fair. It feels like pure filler.
Like I said, amigo. 100% pure.
Every time Colin is on screen, or Frenchie starts lamenting again about being a bad person, I find my eyes glazing over. I think the storyline fails for a number of reasons. Firstly, it retreads a similar character struggle that Frenchie has dealt with before. In Season 2, Frenchie felt immense guilt about Mallory's grandkids getting killed on his watch. He struggles with this sense of self-worth as a result. Him being responsible for killing Colin's entire family is essentially copy and pasting Frenchie's same internal struggle, making it feel tedious to watch because the audience has seen it all before.
Unbelievable. It's the same story all over again.
One of the biggest reasons people don't care for this plotline is because who even is this guy? The audience has no investment in the Frenchie-Colin relationship because they have no investment in Colin himself. We are dropped into Season 4 with the two of them already being a couple, giving the audience no time to gradually see their dynamic build or come to appreciate their interactions. Colin himself is a blank canvas, his main purpose being to make Frenchie feel guilty about his past. Pretty much the only thing I know about Colin is that Frenchie killed his family. He feels more like a plot device than a character in his own right. The show seemingly agrees, because as soon as the relationship ends after Frenchie reveals the truth, we never hear from or see Colin again.
Hey, so where is Colin?
He doesn't note Frenchie's past actions to Starlight. He doesn't go on a revenge kick. He doesn't have a moment of growth where he ultimately finds forgiveness. He just...
I'm really not fine.
It's honestly weird to talk about Huey in the context of Season 4, because in a lot of ways, I think they actually do a pretty good job writing his character. He is once again the moral compass of the show, and undergoes some pretty good development as he learns to let go, coming to terms with his father's death. He shows a bravery that few on the show are capable of, offering forgiveness to characters like A-Train and Newman in the hopes of ending the cycle of hate and violence, moving forward towards a better tomorrow. His plea to Newman and his speech to try and convince the boys to believe in him are honestly some of the best parts of the season.
Violence isn't brave. Forgiveness, letting go, a little fucking mercy. That's brave.
Unfortunately, everything surrounding Huey and the way the world interacts with his character is where the issues arrive. Huey goes through the ringer this season, and a lot of what he endures is framed in a really upsetting way. There really isn't any way to sugarcoat it, but the tech cave scenes are pretty bad, and came off in a way that I don't think the writers intended.
It makes me feel dirty and ashamed.
In general, I think reducing Tech Knight, who could have been an interesting character, into a single punchline feels like a waste.
Yeah,
in Gen
Tech Knight
V,
could have
they
been
revealed
really
him to be a
interesting.
degenerate, but there were other aspects to his character. In The Boys, the entirety of his character is, what if the Batcave was a sex dungeon? By going undercover as Webweaver, Huey is unknowingly whisked off to be humiliated and assaulted by Tech Knight and Ashley. Huey, over and over trying to shout the safe word, shows that he was not consenting to this and wanted it to stop. It's also made darker by Tech Knight being his childhood hero, and apparently the scene was supposed to be funny, at least according to the showrunner Eric Kripke. I think it's weird that this was supposed to be comedic, considering Huey is experiencing SA. Obviously, there's a major disconnect between how the scene was meant to come across and how it was interpreted by most of the audience, but that doesn't forgive it being a bad scene and pretty tone deaf. Huey's treatment is worsened later in the season, after Annie is taken hostage and replaced by a shapeshifter. The shifter goes full-on Revenge of the Nerds, and ends up raping Huey multiple times. Huey was consenting to have sex with his girlfriend, not a shapeshifter who was assuming his girlfriend's identity. After undergoing this terrible trauma, Annie actually has the gall to blame Huey for what happened. Annie is the vehicle
Rita. Ooh, you should have known, Annie.
the show is using to frame the event as Huey's fault, making it seem like he is the one in the wrong.
I cannot overstate this enough. I thought it was you.
Yeah, and as long as you were getting laid, you didn't look too close.
This is a very frustrating and upsetting scene to watch, as it feels like the way it is being framed is incongruent with what actually happened. It's a straight up case of victim blaming. Once again, I don't think the writers expected the scene to be perceived in this way, but I think that's a major oversight on their part. It's really disappointing because I think the show did a really good job telling Annie's story surviving SA in the first season, giving it the necessary care that it deserved.
The pilot begins with a sexual assault, and it's handled a little glibly in the comic, and we always said, well, if we're going to handle it, we have to really be responsible and dive into it.
Unfortunately, they did not take the same care with the situations involving Huey this season. It's even more disappointing that it's Annie, of all characters, that is the one to victim blame Huey. I also had a few issues with Huey's dad's storyline. I think Huey coming to terms with his dad's imminent death is pretty well handled, as Huey goes through the stages of grief, doing anything he can to save his father, before ultimately reaching acceptance and letting go. I think Huey getting the V, but ultimately deciding not to feel like the show was trying to do something interesting or funny, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't land in the way it was intended. I feel like when they were writing back and bite you. When Sage finds her, Firecracker only has a few hundred viewers.
When you found me, my podcast had, I don't know, a couple hundred fans.
Yeah, she's relatively charismatic and hates Starlight, but I feel like it's probably not too hard to find someone who meets those same requirements. Seems like a pretty big oversight, and a completely unnecessary risk. The point is, the actual things we see Sage do don't even seem like some five-head maneuvers. She ends up taking credit for things she could have never known about or even planned for. Even a little scene like Sage having a private conversation with the Speaker of the House at the Tech Night party could have gone a long way to help support her claim. As it is, it feels like the
but she was dumb drawn for that Tech Night party.
writers fell victim to the most common issue with trying to write a smart character, and that is actually having to be smart.
Wah, wah, wah.
A lot of the moments from this season feel like the show was trying to do something interesting or funny, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't land in the way it was intended. I feel like when they were writing the show, the writers thought Webweaver would be a hilarious character. Not only does Webweaver not add anything to the show, but his scenes are consistently unfunny. The scene where Homelander and Firecracker interrogate him and he is diarrheaing webs goes on for way too long. It's a joke that's told over and over again and was never funny in the first place. I also found the reveal that Kessler was part of Butcher's imagination the whole time pretty predictable. When the show finally revealed the truth, it felt like it was trying to catch up with the audience who had figured out the twist episodes prior. This made the reveal feel ineffective, and not the holy smokes moment it was meant to be. There were also little moments throughout the season that just didn't really make sense, like Ashley choosing to stay at Vought instead of running away with A-Train. This is a huge decision she makes, and we as the audience don't really understand why. In fact, it seemingly flies in the face of what she has been saying all season. In the early part, she was trying to quit, only to walk that back knowing that they wouldn't let her and would instead kill her. Ashley was even the one to suggest to A-Train that they run away together.
What if we left? You and me.
So why the change of heart when A-Train approaches her? By staying, her life is still in immediate danger. She still knows too much about the behind the scenes of the Seven. And in fact, the very next thing that happens after she decides to stay is that she is ordered to make a list of people who know too much, so that they can all be killed.
Hey, if we're thinking about who's got the most dirt on us, wouldn't Ashley's name be at the top of the list?
Ashley's decision to stay just really doesn't make sense to me.
I'm not sure I want to leave. I kind of like it there. Well, parts of it.
Now, the season is not all bad, just mostly. Given how I exhaustively talked about what I didn't like in the season, I feel like it's only fair that I give credit to the show where it has earned it. I think the episode where Homelander confronts his past and exacts revenge on his tormentors from his childhood was excellently done. You can see that they are just normal people who are doing their jobs, but you can also see how what they did traumatized Homelander and helped to create the monster that he is now. There is a constant tension that permeates each of these scenes as Homelander grows more and more unhinged, set on exacting his revenge.
You're sorry? Now?
For me, the best part of the season were the journeys of A-Train and Mother's Milk. They did a good job with A-Train's redemption, building on the stepping stones they laid in previous seasons. We understand why he has grown so sick of being Vought and Homelander's puppet. His love for his family has always been genuine, and knowing how his brother sees him, he is forced to come to terms with what he has done. He stops valuing the money and fans that come as a result of him doing despicable things, and instead starts living to try and do something of actual good with his life. For the first time in a long time, his motivations and actions are selfless, as he puts himself in great personal danger to try and do the right thing.
That felt better than anything that I had ever done at Vought.
Mother's Milk is also a great character to watch this season, as he is forced to grapple with the responsibility of leadership, as well as looking out for his own family and well-being in this messed up world. He wants to leave the fight, fearing that it will be the death of him and leave his wife and daughter in danger. Ironically, it's his love for his wife and daughter that gets him to stay, as he knows that no matter where they are in the world, they will never be safe, so long as this injustice is allowed to remain.
This was Eric's dream, to do 5 solid seasons.
Season 4 of The Boys was a massive disappointment. They failed to live up to what made the early seasons so great, as they undermined their characters' journeys and deployed a style of storytelling that felt shallow and sloppy. Oftentimes throughout the season, they seemed to
I think there'll be a lot more deaths in season 5. I think that should be good.
to have lost the plot, not understanding how certain things would be received. I am happy that the 5th season is the final season, as it means that we might actually get to see something of consequence happen, instead of the filler that was present throughout the 4th season. I am happy that the show is coming to an end, and am even a little bit hopeful that the